So welcome to the great debate, what is fundraising success and how should we measure it? My name's Allan Freeman, I'm your host. I'm going to facilitate and perhaps agitate a little bit as we go through the session. I'm a consultant for commercial organisations and charities in the UK. So first of all, John Trampleasure, representing the voice of CEOs and finance directors. Tim Hunter is going to be the voice of the fundraiser. Paul Atfield is going to be the voice of the charity, the supporter. So, let me introduce John Trampleasure, Deputy Chief Exec for the World Society for the Protection of Animals. John, tell us what the CEO thinks.
Okay. What I wanted to focus on today is, how do we measure fundraisers? So, firstly, opportunity. This is a simple measure. How many times does a fundraising director and indeed their team generate great ideas, but then move that from the great idea to something that can be genuinely implemented? How many opportunities are they bringing to the senior team that can be debated in the senior team, considered, and then moved on to presentation to the board? And this would be one of my measures of success, is not just looking at the net income, but how many opportunities are you actually presenting that we can do something with? I want to measure your performance on the extent to which you're shaking out the weak income streams, not just letting them glide, letting them continue because there are bigger fish to fry. In fact, you're really just focusing on the areas that will build your CV. Cost management. There's an upside and a downside to this. What I'm looking for, what I'm measuring on, is your ability to sweat the assets you have. What I know is that all too often a fundraising director will come back and pitch an idea. They'll ask for more money. It'll be put on top of their existing budget, and there's no mention of how they're going to move money from within their existing budget to develop the opportunity. It's delivering more for less is what I'm really after. Do you have the ability to really look into your budgets and not come back to the board, or indeed get me to go back to the board to ask for more, when in fact you've stuffed your budget? Return on investment. I suppose the question I'd be asking and measuring you against is your ability to give me the stats that I need to impress the board trustees and so on. But what I found is there's an upside and a downside to this. The downside is the person who comes with, I want to hear about the ROI, but the fundraiser will tell me, it's really difficult. The rest of the organization, they're not really giving the numbers in any consistent way, so I can give you a rough ROI, but don't press me too hard on that. No, I'm going to press you very hard on that. And what I'm really expecting is that as a fundraising director, fundraising team, you can, guess what, work with your colleagues to resolve the internal problems and not just point the finger at the finance team, for example. Risk and openness. A fundraiser should, by definition, be a risk taker. The measure I'm looking for is one that you take risks, bring development ideas to the senior team, but you're exploring the risks thoroughly, and that's not something I've always experienced wherever I've gone, and that some colleagues I've worked with in the past have put fundraising programs through without bringing the senior team along, having not assessed the risk, and really trying to win on a wing and a prayer. And of course, this can and does work, but every now and then it doesn't, and then the fundraiser is leaving the chief exec exposed when he or she indeed is going to the board to explain how that idea flopped. We live or die, we succeed or fail based on the people we hire, retain, and motivate. And it's not just hiring people that are money-making machines. So let's talk about people stuff. The kind of people that I'm looking out for are the slash and burn people. So, for example, in the UK, the average lifespan of a fundraising organisation is, say, around 2 years. Now, one or two individuals I've come across in my career have come through with the express ambition of delivering to the bottom line within that 18 months to 2 years and then moving on, really going short term. What I'm really looking for and what I'm trying to measure against is people's ability to recruit people who've been around a number of business cycles, have seen the good with the bad. And if they're not being recruited to the senior position, so we need that, at a junior level, do they understand that this is about a business cycle which is more than just 18 months long or the length of their tenure within a charity. Then this thing I'm calling, well, impossible people. I don't know whether this colloquialism means anything to you, but bonkers people. I am measuring again on people's performance, but also, you know, how many people do we recruit who simply cannot operate with other people? It's a measure that is a really critical one. It's really easy to measure how many crazy people come through in a particular team. I'll be talking to that senior manager about what is it about their recruitment technique which is crashing the organization, because you know as well as I do that negative people can suck in all the energy of the organization. So, of course, this is a really critical success factor that we need to measure. So looking towards, really, our speaker next but one, let's talk about supporters, so we can't be accused of not thinking about the dear supporter. I've met resistance from fundraisers who really resent being painted or being required to be good at customer service. I've been in meetings in the last year where I've raised the term customer service, and people have really visibly sort of moved away. This is beneath them to talk about customer service. And really what I'm getting to there is, clearly we need fundraisers who can connect with the supporter, stand in their shoes, talk with them, operate with them. If you're a direct marketeer and your one-dimensional life is all about spreadsheets, well, that's only like 20% of what we need. What about the rest? Can you really connect to the donor, the supporter, deliver them the service that they need, not what you want to give to them? And to wind up, what is fundraising success? How should we measure it from a chief exec or indeed fundraising director perspective? Of course, it's about sustainable growth in net income, sustainable net income. People need to think beyond the spreadsheet and ultimately be the multi-dimensional perfect human being, and we'll be measuring you against that, and we should measure Tim against that when he steps up and speak in a moment. But thank you very much. That's my pitch.
Okay, we will move on to Tim, who's going to talk to us from the view of the fundraiser.
So let's start by taking a journey to the Bean Counters Cafe. So this is something which I'm sure many of you fundraisers will be very familiar with. It's just set up somewhere between the chief executive's office and the finance director's office. And you smell the kind of the wafts of bitter coffee coming out of the Bean Counters Cafe. But unfortunately, as fundraisers, occasionally we have to visit the Bean Counters Cafe. And when we go, it's all stories of the market doing well, but maybe not. Maybe the bear is waiting in the side and waiting to come in, and we don't know when that's going to be, and we need to be cautious as a result, and we need to look at where our kind of reserves are at the moment. And what happens? You get parked in short-termism. Well, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The bad news is, as fundraisers, we have to keep going back to the Bean Counters Cafe. And even when kind of chief baristas like John feed us the bitterest coffee of short-termism, we have to learn to speak their language, because otherwise we are not going to be able to do the job that we really need to do, which is delivering for our beneficiaries, in the case of UNICEF, delivering for children. And we need to be able to talk their language so that we can demonstrate to them, after hours of logical and reasoned argument, that often it's actually better to invest in fundraising in the long term rather than just leaving the money in the bank. So that's the first thought I'm going to give to you. The second one is, what you measure is what you get. And so this is a cautionary tale to fundraisers. So at UNICEF, we have a number of national offices around the world who fundraise for UNICEF. And this is country A, a European country that generates a lot of income for UNICEF. And these are the ROIs that we got on an investment of about $1 million that we put into this country in 2009. And I would say they're pretty good. Our benchmark guidelines for fundraising is a return of 3 to 1 over 36 months. So they're all well above those, some of them significantly above them. So everybody's happy. Well, not so much. Because actually when you look at country A between 2006 and 2009, we invested $9 million. But the overall net income to UNICEF, so what they actually sent to UNICEF for programs for children, actually went down $1 million over this period. And the net income unrestricted, so the money that UNICEF can spend reaching the children in greatest need around the world, went down $3 million. So actually, not so good. But that's because the fundraisers at the center, who were in charge of kind of doling out this investment money, were just looking at the ROI of the activity and weren't spending enough time thinking, okay, well, what's the big picture? How much money are we actually getting from this country? How much money is going to programs? Thank you.